Welcome back. I have the panel in on Saturday morning of young journalist hotshots, and I always ask what they are. Be reading, but first I'll go. The book The Cartel by Don Winslow. I found myself in an airport for the first time in about 40 years without a book. By accident, I left my iPad at home and had forgotten a book, so I had to actually buy a book in an airport, and The Cartel got me by the lapels and has not let go. It is The Godfather applied to Mexico over the last 15 years, and I would recommend it very highly. If you can't follow the story, read a good story about the story. How about you, Sungmin Kim?
Well, first of all, my real reading material is making my way through the Senate tax bill.
Ooh, poor person.
It is. But aside from that, just as a lighter read, I've picked up again the Beltway Bible by the Huffington Post, Elliot Nelson. It's just very hilarious, encyclopedic guide to just how weird this town is.
I've never heard of this book.
Yes, it's very funny.
The Beltway Bible.
Yeah.
All right, good. Francesca, what should people be reading?
All right, I know that people are reading H.R. McMaster's book, Dereliction of Duty. H.R. McMaster is the National Security Advisor to President Donald Trump, to kind of get some insight into what advice he might be giving the president on foreign policy behind the scenes. And that's certainly the book that I'm going to be reading as we cross back through Asia again. Lots of time to read on these 14-hour flights.
You make good use of it. Annie Linskey.
So I'm not reading a book about politics. I'm reading John Heckinger's new book, True Gentlemen, and it's a book about the fraternity Sigma, it's SAE, so Sigma, well, whatever it stands for.
SAE.
SAE. What it is the deadliest fraternity in the country. They've had the most deaths of any other fraternity, and so he's really goes deep inside the culture of this fraternity to figure out, what the influences are and what some of the solutions could be too, which is sort of a nice.
This week Ohio State suspended every fraternity at the Ohio State University. Yeah. And I know good SAEs, and I know the stories about bad SAEs, and every frat has them. What's your conclusion as you're reading this about frat culture? Is it redeemable?
I think is, I think that's one of the nice things about it. I think that if you look at sort of the broader, national folks who are on the boards of these fraternities, I think they do have a chance and an opportunity to get more involved in the local level. The other piece of it too is just the liability is becoming so insane that I think that's going to change some minds. But the bottom line is adults need to get involved here, and so that's sort of why it's an interesting read.
Lachlan?
Well, I'm a sucker for American history, and I am currently reading Ron Chernow's Washington biography. I read his Hamilton biography. I really want to read his new one on Grant, but he won a Pulitzer for Washington, so I decided I should knock that out first. And, we all sort of think of Washington as this larger-than-life, very sort of stoic figure, and I just think it's fascinating. He was a very temperamental, often angry, often very emotional person, and I think that doesn't come through in a lot of
also the most rectitudinous man in American history.
He worked very hard to build and then project that image, and I think that's actually a great lesson for modern politics and modern media, where personality is often larger than life, to the detriment not just of our larger sort of political system, but to the individual himself.
Embarrassing question from my panel of D.C. Beltway people. Have you been to Mount Vernon?
Of course.
How often?
Just once.
All right. Annie, have you been to Mount Vernon?
Yes, just once.
Just one? Francesca?
Just one time, but I've been.
All right.
When I was a child, did all the visits.
Okay. Now, Vice President Biden has a new book out, and it's on my list because Joe Biden is very much the guy I would like to vote for if he were not a Democrat, right? I just like Joe Biden a lot, so I want to read his book. Have any of you found your way to it yet, and is it on your list?
It's definitely on my list. Haven't found my way through it yet.
Okay. Francesca?
So many books right now.
Exactly.
On my list. I'm still trying to make my way through Shattered, people.
But the Vice President might be running for president again, right?
I've been reading these stories about it, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
And Lachlan, last question for you, not Biden. You wrote a piece on trade about Heiser.
Sure.
It's from Ashtabula, Ohio, where all four of my grandparents and both of my parents are from. Tell people what the bottom line on that piece is.
On trade policy in particular, the Trump administration is finding some unusual allies on the left who felt alienated by Obama trade policies and are surprised to see, welcome arms in the Trump administration.
And does Peter Navarro, he was the University of California Irvine professor. I've known Peter for 30 years. I was surprised to find him in the Trump White House. Does he have a substantive role, or is it all Lighthizer?
No, he does. And in fact, you look through a lot of the stories based on FOIA schedules from the U.S. Trade Representative, and Navarro is sitting in on a lot of these meetings. So I think he's very much the White House point person.
Have you spent time with him yet, with Peter?
With personally, no.
He's a no-growth would-be mayor of San Diego who reinvented himself as an anti-China trade expert and now sort of hangs around. He's the last of the original gang. The last of the original gang.
But speaking to the words of Lighthizer and trade, he was just on that trip.
There you go.
He was on that trip in the
Thank you, Lachlan, Sung-Min, Francesca, Annie. Thank you all for being here on a Saturday morning, and thank you for watching Today America. Keep the conversation going on MSNBC.com/Hugh Hewitt, and see you next week on Saturday morning right here on MSNBC.